Okay, so I saw this movie when it released back in March, and here I'm gonna go over character development and make that clear, as well as talk about how to draw emotion, making you actually feel for the characters, and help you understand that the culprit in the murder of Zack Snyder's Justice League is, in fact, superficiality, and make that understandable here. So let's get into it. Okay, let's start with the scene with Wonder Woman and those terrorists, because this scene really stood out to me, and it's a prime example of what I'm going to get into right now in regards to the core issue with this movie. With this one, let's start with the elephant in the room, which is, what was the point of it? In movies, the only purpose of a scene is to help the story or develop the characters. This had no character development, nor did it have anything to do with the story. It just took up runtime and made the movie longer, which it already was to begin with. Just like that Amazonian scene where Steppenwolf takes the first mother box, we get unnecessary longer shots of some dead Amazons of whom we don't care about. This is how you make movies drag. And hold on, before we get more into this scene, let's talk about Diana. Diana had zero character development in this movie, hands down. I'm hearing people say that she's changed from BVS when she was in hiding to this film when she's helping people, but that's not character development. We also have to look at these movies in chronological order too. In 2017's Wonder Woman, in the beginning, she went from wanting to save the world to despising the world at the end.
I used to want to save the world. This beautiful place. But I knew so little then. It is a land of magic and wonder, worth cherishing in every way. But the closer you get, the more you see the great darkness simmering within.
In BVS, she went from still despising the world in the beginning to saving the world again in the end. Here she went from wanting to save the world to You see what I mean? Wait, hold on. Did Bruce Wayne have character development in this? Hold on. Okay, so in the beginning of BVS, Bruce Wayne didn't have faith in humanity.
Amounts to nothing. Criminals like these, no. Pull one up, another grows in its place.
And by the end of BVS, his faith was restored.
I failed him. In life. I won't fail him in death.
In the beginning of Justice League, Bruce Wayne went from his faith being restored in humanity.
I made a promise to him on his grave. I spent a lot of time trying to divide us. I need to bring us together and make this right.
To let's see. Damn, he didn't have character development either. He was going to be on this top 10 okay and good enough things about this movie list, but damn. Oh well. Steppenwolf did not change Diana or Bruce. The events of Justice League did not change Diana or Bruce. A way that would have developed Diana and Bruce's character here would have been to help them realize something about themselves that they're just now dealing with, like an inner weakness, like emotions that have been triggered by something in the story they have a lack of understanding of. Piggybacking off of something similar that happened in the past that the characters are still emotionally wounded from. And in the middle of the story, they learn how to heal and deal with their trauma with the help of the secondary characters of the story. By the third act of the story, they learn to deal with the trauma completely opposite from when they first encountered the trauma. The importance of character development in this film, from beginning to end, is to help every trial the characters go through mean something, so everything won't feel emotionless, underwhelming, and a waste of time. The movie needed emotional weight behind everything the characters face in regards to the weaknesses that they need to overcome in order to become victorious in the end, thus raising the stakes. While we care for them already going into the story, this makes us root for them until they reach their full potential by the end of the story. I would have Diana as a secondary character, but that means the plot shouldn't revolve around her at all, and that means she shouldn't have any scenes alone altogether unless there's subplots like the one with Victor. And the same goes for all the rest of the characters, and this movie has the same problem with them too, which is that they all have individual scenes with them alone. And just have Bruce be the main character. I've been thinking about it, but I kinda agree with the people that have been saying that they should have waited for them to have their own solo films first before doing this Justice League thing. While I have been a critic in the past of this notion that they should have the individual stuff first before the big thing, that's because it worked in Batman v Superman. What you think? Secondary characters' roles should be to help the main character with his development, and from that they will form a bond with him or her along the way as a secondary character, as well as help the story. Their scenes should be together with the main character, even if they are in different locations, helping the story in that case. The worst part for me is when Diana said to Arthur that hate is useless. What does that even mean after everything you did here? She beheaded Steppenwolf because he destroyed our old colony, but hate is useless now. Anyway, back to the scene. The next problem that comes with this scene is, more importantly, the stakes. And what I mean by this is, in movies when it comes to action scenes in particular, the stakes are built up by engagement coming from the threat itself. And what I mean by this is, like, imagine you playing a video game. Let's say the video game has you fighting ninjas. So okay, you fighting, but the thing here is you beat every last one of the ninjas easily, and you still have a completely full health bar, and the ninjas didn't even lay a scratch on you at that. That's not how that works. That's underwhelming, right? And what is showcased here in this scene where Diana is throwing the guys at the walls and beating them. Diana beats up the terrorists with ease, considering how fast she is moving, since she did it in under at 12 seconds, and the fact that she is stronger than the guys, obviously. In the scene, they're not even focused on the hostages anymore. They try to kill Diana. And about the hostages, tell me why I don't care. This scene required it to have stakes since she's just saving people. Other than that, then what's the point of the whole ordeal? Some are talking about it's an introduction scene. Introduction to what? Oh, she saves people now, like she did in Batman vs Superman at the end. She did that there when she saved Batman from Doomsday, so that isn't new to introduce. I kinda wanted one of the terrorists to kill the little girl or something. That might sound cold, but that would have made for an interesting story and heightened the stakes. But anyway, a good example of how to do this. In BVS, in the warehouse scene, we see Batman trying to save Martha, who is in a different room than the one he's fighting in. We see Martha first while the henchmen know Batman has arrived to stop them from doing any harm to her from the beginning of the scene. This builds the stakes because it gives the perception that it may or may not be too late to save Martha. And the fact that you actually see him get hit and stabbed by the goons gives the perception that they can have the upper hand on him if he's not careful, thus raising the stakes. In the part where she says,
"Can I be like you someday?"
I didn't feel anything from that at all. Inspired? No. Inspiring is not just beating the bad guys and saving the day. It's one person or persons who defy all the odds and accomplish the goal at hand. This is not how you inspire people. This would have worked if Diana was just like her, meaning not just in spirit but in body too. Like if Diana didn't have any powers and she defeated the terrorists all on her own with the odds stacked against her. That would have shown the girl that she doesn't need powers to defeat bad guys, which would have been very empowering to the audience. She will know that being Diana someday is doable if she just works towards it and just know that the sky's the limit. She can't be like no Diana, what the hell. And besides all that, this was so direct and pushy with it. How about they try something subtly? You know what subtly mean? Like, God was it so in your face. We get it. Strong female empowerment. We get it. Next up is that scene with Iris West, and with this one it's the same thing, and it establishes a trend throughout this movie, which is just superficiality. This means that this movie has stuff in it not because it has anything of any substance, it's because it looks or sounds cool, which is to the movie's detriment. Like really, this could have had Barry just walk out of the pet store all excited and whatnot, turns around and have the owner of the store come out and shout to him saying, remember, you start Monday 7 o'clock fresh, because remember, he wanted to pay for college so he could become a forensic scientist and get his dad out of jail. That's all. There was no need for some short love story and something like that. Okay, while we're on Barry, let's get into this right here. First of all, when did he know how to time travel, or knew he could time travel? This would have helped with a solo movie before this thing, as I explained before. The part where he time travels in the third act just really came from out of nowhere, with no build up whatsoever to it. But people didn't like it when Diana turned the plane invisible. The only reason it's accepted is because everybody saw Flashpoint or at least read the book, but build-up doesn't cease at comic book to movie adaptations just because something is well known that a character can do. That being said, this time travel thing wasn't earned, it felt contrived to say the least. Wait, hold up, did Barry have character development? Wait, hold on. Okay. So when we first see him, he's still living in the past about what happened to Mom and how his father got arrested for it.
Let's see. As I talk to my father, who's still in prison for the murder of my mother, which he didn't commit. Yeah, how did I get interested in criminal justice? I can't remember.
It's actually the worst job you can get in a crime lab, but my foot's in the door.
Hold on. So far, that's 3 of them that didn't have character development in this movie. I wonder why. Like, all they had to do to develop Barry's character is to have him, by the end of the story, forget about the past, stop living for Dad, and choose his own destiny. Some would argue that it helped him become a hero, but he was already doing that before. Remember Suicide Squad?
No honor among thieves, eh?
But that aside, we got the video of him knocking that dude out from robbing the store, and he already had a suit, so he was already doing that way before he joined the Justice League. Towards the end of the movie, he got his foot in the door at some crime lab, so he's still trying to live for his dad, so let's get on to the next issue, which is Aquaman in this. And they also butchered that here too. 2018's Aquaman was gorgeous and is by far the second greatest DCEU movie in terms of story and characterization. Here he hates his mom.
Your queen left me on my father's doorstep and never gave me another thought.
Your mother left you to save your life.
It contradicts the events of Aquaman, but that's not the problem here. This guy hates his mom for leaving him and his father. It left out the reason why so we could overlook this plot hole. If his mom left him because he was half-breed and his father was human, so you're telling me this whole time he didn't think to himself, then why did she make a baby with him in the first place? Like, that's conflicting. She hates you for being half-breed, but then had you with someone else not from the underwater kingdom. Like, did they break up and he didn't like her anymore? That would have worked in this notion he believes in favor, but that is not what Mira told him. So you mean his father didn't tell him what happened between him and his mom? Like, it was Atlantis' fault. She had to leave and she still loves you, so don't blame her, blame Atlantis. Usually when somebody resents a parent, it's usually because the one parent that raised them taught them to hate that parent by telling them bad stuff about them. Like, they left you because they didn't love you or something. They should have had something like this in it if they were going this route. This should have been explained in depth so we could really feel for Arthur and understand him. Instead, we got a belligerent child, and he says his mama left him and his dad and didn't give him a thought. We go like, oh, that's sad, but we don't feel for him. Feeling is not what somebody tells you. It's what you see, it's what you hear, it's what you feel on the inside and the outside of your body. And I call all of this the touch. It's like when somebody says they've been abused, you have sympathy for them, but you don't feel their pain. But if you've seen the abuse and heard it, like if you were in an abusive household, then you would feel their pain. The movie used all this time to show off and show out and impress the audience with Steppenwolf fighting Arthur and the Atlanteans, saying, look how cool that is.
Cool.
They could have used some of that time to have Arthur have a character moment with his dad and have that be the stepping stone in helping him on his journey into becoming a hero and joining the Justice League. This adds to the point of how superficiality is to this movie's detriment. Even the stuff that Zack Snyder's Justice League gets right a little, I still feel like I've seen the same thing done 10 times better before, 1 or 2 times before, like that stuff with Cyborg. What the? Cyborg is mad at his father because he wasn't there for his football games. Well, in particular, he's not there at all from what I've heard. While this is nice, it doesn't feel emotional. This would have worked if Victor had lost the game and got booed or something and the team blamed him all for it since he's the captain of the football team. It would have shown that Silas Stone wasn't there for Victor at his lowest when he really needed somebody to lift his spirits and assure him that everything will be okay. It's optional if you want to show that a character's parent wasn't there for their good and bad, but I recommend just the bad if you want it to be emotional. And he tried to force crocodile tears and I thought that was funny. The part where he gets suspended for helping the girl cheat did not help this at all. Because remember what I say about the touch. Because they're talking about her house burning down and she can't learn because of it. Like, please.
Sarah's family lost their houses here. How could that child pass her classes?
We don't know who this girl is to Victor, and there was no on-screen chemistry to show for it to make this moment spark. And I'm not talking about another relationship. We don't want none of that. This movie is already 4 hours long. We don't want another Iris and Barry thing. This doesn't show that there was something there between him and the girl to make him do this for her. Like a bond or something. This just shows that he's a sucker. You know, those types. You know what I'm talking about. Besides that, Victor is privileged. Even though his father is not even there for him. How am I supposed to cry? He's a genius and a star of a football team.
Your son may be captain of the football team and a certified genius, Mrs. Stone.
Dr. Stone.
All it's doing is make me feel jealous. Based on what we've seen and heard from his backstory. God. Even after the car crash, when he becomes cyborg, you can't sit up there and say he doesn't have it all.
Master, no firewall can stop you. No encryption can defy you. We're all at your mercy, Vic. From our power grids to our telecommunications, everyone's lives are controlled and dominated by complex digital networks that will bend without effort to your will.
And I know his mom died in the crash and all, and she was there with him through thick and thin, I assume, but me not crying is the fault of this emotionless backstory. Not saying it's sad, nor do I don't sympathize with Victor and his situation. It's just that it's not emotional. It's just a cliche, adorable, sad backstory. And why does he still hate his dad even after he saved him? Well, that's just me kinda, because I don't feel for him hating him, because his reason for hating him doesn't feel emotional based off of what we've seen already from his little backstory.
Rest in your hands. Its entire nuclear arsenal you could launch with a thought. The world's monetary systems and its complex interactions will seem as easy to manipulate for you as a child's plaything. The question, no, the challenge won't be doing it. It will be not doing, not seeing. It is the burden of this responsibility that will define you and who